What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben, and welcome back to The Bench for a brand new episode here on Sci-Fi Wednesdays. We are going to be moving on today, guys, with our awesome little 1/48 scale N1 Starfighter. We're going to hopefully get everything closed up, wired together, and get this looking like an N1. So last episode, we went ahead and finished off the cockpit. That is awesome. Really happy about that. We've got everything more or less lined up and sealed. We've got our SMD there for the instrument panel. We've got our 3 fiber optics there for the top gauge clusters. So now we have to move on to the wing nacelles. They're going to have LEDs in each of those nacelles, and they're going to be facing backwards. So I have to figure out how to go ahead and wire those up. Got to get our magnet wire going and then get everything strung together to go ahead and lead into the main portion of the hull. So still lots of work to do. But we're going to go ahead and jump into our very first time lapse of today, and we are going to work on the engine nacelles. I want to go ahead and clean them up using our Dremel. We have a nice sanding bit that we can use here. I want to round those out just a little bit more. Then I want to go ahead and install some LED supports using some sprue just as a support to go ahead and get that LED focused in the middle of the nacelle pointing backwards. And then of course prime everything for a nice initial light block, and I think we'll be ready to go ahead and move on from there. So let's jump into that time lapse, guys. Let's start having some fun. Let's get going. All right, everybody, we are back. And so far, so good. We're going to move on to magnet wire and our LEDs for the twin engines. These are going to be a little bit on the tricky side here, but I actually have done a couple of test fits off camera, and I think I have an idea what I'm going to go ahead and do. So what we have here, we have magnet wire. We have 2 different colors of magnet wire. One is more of that copper color. That's going to be for the negative leg of the LED and for the battery pack. And we have a red color that's going to be for the positive side of the LED. And of course for the battery pack. So red to red, copper to black. So what we're going to do first, I'm going to cut off a couple of lengths of these magnet wire, and we'll get our soldering station going and prepare our LED. On the LED, we have 2 legs of the LED. One is a little bit longer than the other. The longer leg is the positive side, at least as far as I've read, and the shorter side is the negative side, for lack of a better term. So what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to pre-tin each of those legs, and I'm going to go ahead and cut them to shape and size. that will fit in here to the nacelles. However, though, I am going to keep the positive leg a little bit longer, so that helps me to kind of visually recognize that's where the red wire is going to go. So first off, let's go ahead and grab our soldering iron, grab a little bit of 0.3 solder, and we're going to go ahead and just tin up the negative leg here on our LED. I'm just going to wrap the magnet wire around in somewhat of a spiral, starting from the top to the bottom. That's going to hopefully give me enough opportunities to get some really nice wire-to-wire connections, and we're not going to have to worry too much about loss of power or anything like that. Now, the wires are actually enamel coated, so you don't have to worry too much about coming in contact with each other, short out the system or anything like that. However, though, when we go ahead and solder these down to something like an LED or a battery pack or other wires, we have to make sure that that enamel coating is burned off. Now, the soldering iron does a really nice job of that, and I've actually noticed as a bit more of a visual cue that when the enamel coating is still active there on the wire, the solder won't stick to it. It just beads up and flows right across the wire. But if you actually stick a little bit of heat on that, once the enamel coating is gone, the solder will actually go right into that wire and form a nice little bond and cover over it. So that's kind of, at least for me, a visual cue that I have a decent connection, and hopefully it'll light up. So let's go ahead and do, like I said, the negative wire first. That's going to be the copper colored one. Then we'll go ahead and switch over. We'll do the positive, which is the red color wire. And I think we'll be ready to go ahead and test this, see what we can do. Now that the negative side is all finished up, let's go ahead and move over to the positive leg here on the LED. That's going to be the red magnet wire. And again, just like before, we're going to go ahead and kind of pre-tin the leg of the LED. Take a little bit of solder here, drop it right at the tip of the soldering iron, and then we'll go ahead and touch that to the LED and kind of drag it around to make sure we have everything nicely covered with a little bit of solder, just to make sure that we have a nice connection. And again, once this is all good and ready to go, we can then take our magnet wire, we can wrap it around, spiral down the leg of the LED, and then we can come back and we can go ahead and start applying our solder. Now, I'm no expert at soldering here, guys, but so far I'm learning a lot by just kind of doing and experimenting and trying new things, watching videos online, of course. So I'm far from an expert, but you know what? I think I'm getting the hang of it. I'm slowly kind of learning what to do, what to watch out for. Practice makes perfect, so I just got to keep doing it, right? Which means I've got to build more models for sure. Also, you'll notice I have a soldering station here. I actually picked this up off of Amazon, and it's really, really nice. It's got an adjustable soldering iron. It's got a heat gun as well, which works great for going ahead and securing any sort of shrink tubing or anything like that. Really nice little set there, guys. So if you're interested in it, let me know, and I'll get you guys name and model and all that good stuff. But otherwise, they're really, really handy to have, and they're much better than just your standard, just plug and play type of soldering iron. I think it's really kind of stepped up my soldering game for sure. Now let's go ahead and connect up the red wires, and we have our red magnet wire to our red wire coming off our battery pack. And you'll notice we already have one LED that's on. That's our test LED to make sure the battery pack is working. So what we're going to do is once I make my connections here for the N1 LED, that's going to go ahead and light up. Now with the positive side done, let's move over to the negative side. We're going to do the exact same thing, just a little bit of solder there on the tip. And once I make a good connection here, you'll see that light up and we'll know it's working. So just a little bit of solder, make sure everything kind of flows, and oh, there you go. So now we have two lit LEDs. So now we know it works, and we can go ahead and move on with the next time lapse. So importantly, let's go ahead and add in a little bit of shrink tubing here on each of those legs to make sure we don't have any connection issues, and we'll move on and get this installed into the N1. Now for the engines here, I've actually used a piece of styrene right off of a sprue, and I glued that down to act as a support for our LED. It's going to actually raise the LED to sit right in the middle of that circular opening facing backwards. So let's go ahead and just attach that LED to a little bit of hot glue. And once that is dry, we can then start stringing the wires and figure out how to get these magnet wires through all these little panel lines that I've scribed from last episode into the hole so I can connect it to the power source and get everything hooked up to just two wires, a positive and a negative, that will go down through the bottom of the hole and into the base. I also want to go ahead and once that is all good to go, I'll test it, make sure everything works. And then we'll go ahead and seal it up by putting on the bottom of the hole. Then I also want to go ahead and take care of a little bit of some light diffusing panels I've actually made out of some clear styrene. I've already roughed them up a bit with some sandpaper to help diffuse the light, but I want to hit them with some nice clear blue to go ahead and give it a nice blue tint. And then I think we'll be back and I'll show you guys what we come up with. So let's keep pushing. We are getting there. Let's see how this works. Get some power to the LEDs.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. So we are back, and that went really, really well. We have our N1 all sealed up. We have all the connections made, everything soldered, everything shrink tubed, and we have a little bit of a support. As you can see, we flip it on, everything lights up, everything works. So I'm really, really happy about that. As you can see, we've got our 2 LEDs there. We've used our magnet wire to go from each end right into the main hull. They're kind of hidden underneath there inside each panel line. And eventually, maybe next episode, we'll be able to finish off these engines and we'll be able to attach the lower portions and get everything light blocked and sealed. So you can see these LEDs are pretty bright. So I do have these diffuser panels that I made just out of some clear plastic that I've roughed up. And then I overcoated them with some clear blue. So those will go right in the middle there, tinting the light even more on the blue side of things. Then we'll grab that finial and we'll glue that in place, basically in the middle of this opening, and you'll get something that looks a little bit like this. Kind of hard to tell right now, but let's get you a close-up here. As you can see, we have both of the engine lights that are working. We have our fiber optics along the very top of the instrument panel, and each one of those is something different that I punched out of a clear film that came out of my MiG-15. Kind of hard to see, but there's something there. And also right below that, we have our instrument panel with our different lights. We do have to do a little bit of repair work on this nacelle. You'll see that the left nacelle actually has a little bit of a lip. The right one does not because it actually got damaged, so I have to replace that with some styrene. Hopefully that goes over well and we can move on from there. So yeah, everything works. The lights turn on and they stay on, which is awesome. Now you'll notice that the wires are tucked up in the panel line, so that's great. They're nice and flush with the bottom portion of the wing. Plus you're not going to see them. You'll see the top part, of course, but we'll work on that a little bit later. But the undersurface will be mostly hidden. We do have to come in though and fix up some of the hull area right here, kind of sand things down, smooth things out so it has a nice seamless appearance. And then on the upper surface, we have to go ahead and make sure that we actually have panel lines where they should be, and then go ahead and close up the cockpit, mask it, and paint it. So that's going to be something we need to go ahead and take care of. You'll also notice that we have a little bit of a brass tube that kind of hangs down below. This is actually going to be mostly obscured at some point, but we needed to have some form of a support, and this actually works pretty well. There was already a hole there, so I just stuck a tubing in there and ran our power wires down through it. As you can see though, it's a little bit on the longer side, but that's okay because I wanted it adjustable. So I wanted a little bit of variation here so I could put it as high or as low as I like it to the base. Of course, there is still a lot of cleanup to do on the different surfaces here on the N1. The biggest seam, of course, being this very top seam right here between the front section and the hull. I don't know if that's an actual panel line or not. If it isn't, then I can just go ahead and ferret in. Should be fine. If it is a panel line, I can just minimize it a little bit and leave it there. But anyway, guys, we are all finished up. Thank you so much for joining me today. As you can see, the N1 is coming right along. We are getting close. I think we're past the halfway point. So next episode, we'll be back and hopefully get the engines finished up, get everything attached, and then we can start priming and painting. So until then, guys, you know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool. We'll see you back here on episode 5. Take care of yourselves, and may the force be with you.